everybody to QSTP. Thank you very much for being with us here today. My name is Omnia Kilani. I'm the Marketing and Outreach Manager for Qatar Foundation Research and Development. Today we have an interesting topic. As you all know, in QSTP, we all try to create an innovation community, a community that welcomes people who are trying or striving to change the world and reshape the future for all of us. And in order to do that, we cannot only rely on small companies or startups, but we also need the contribution of the bigger players, of the companies and corporations. And this is the topic we're discussing here today. How can corporations contribute and actually benefit from having an innovation ecosystem? We have interesting guests today. I'm going to leave it to Dr. Maher to introduce them. Just a little bit of housekeeping. We have the restrooms are in both these buildings on the right and the left. No fire drills today, so if any fire alarm goes out, we have to go to the assembly points at the back. If you need anything, let us know. The marketing team is all around the place. And the hashtag for the event is QSTP technovate for Twitter. Without any further ado, please help me welcome Dr. Maher Hakim, QSTP Executive Director.
Thank you, Omnia. I cannot compete with these shoes. They're awesome. So the good news, bad news about having a good weather is that it's a beautiful day. So I thank you all for coming here. The bad news is that it's because it's beautiful weather, probably a lot of people chose to go to the swimming pool instead of coming to a lecture. But I'm excited about the talk today. When my team asked me what the context of this talk will be today, I gave them a long description. I said, we want to talk about how large companies, large corporations, established businesses can actually contribute and benefit from startups and the startup ecosystem. Isn't that a great title, I said? And they said, oh, you mean innovation means business? And I said, yes, absolutely. So innovation means business this is the marketing title for us for what we're going to talk about today, which is typically in the world of private business, there are a lot of established big companies. In this case, today is Iberdrola, a big energy company supplier. And all of these large companies are trying to innovate, trying to actually keep up with what's happening with technology. And there are many ways to do that. And one of the ways to actually accomplish innovation is to look at what the new innovators are doing and figure out a way to actually support them and benefit from them. And this is what Iberdrola has been trying to do, I think, in the past few years. And we're here today to talk about and listen to their story about how they actually did that exactly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce our speakers, and then they're going to come to the stage. And then I'll ask each of them to give a brief description of their organization and the type of business they're working on. And then we will enter into a dialogue on how we can get large corporations to contribute and benefit from a startup ecosystem. So my first speaker is Dr. Agustín Delgado. I got the name correctly. Dr. Agustín is the Chief Innovation Officer at Iberdrola. He's been with Iberdrola for about 12 years now, and from the beginning, he was involved in innovation ecosystem within Iberdrola. So I think he started as a director of innovation, and then today he is the Chief Innovation Officer. Dr. Delgado holds a PhD in Industrial Engineering from UNED, which is the Universidad Nacional de Educación de Distancia, with a TH. So with Dr. Agustín, please welcome to the stage. Thank you, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a seat. Our other guest, second guest, is a company, a founder and CEO of a company called Innowatts that Iberdrola made actually an investment in, and they work closely with. Mr. Siddhartha Sachdeva is a founder and CEO of Innowatts. Siddhartha is also a master's degree in electrical engineering from an Indian, from university in India. He did his bachelor in electrical engineering and his master's in India, got his first job in India at Sony, and then he moved to the United States, to Texas, to work at a company called NTT. Worked in product development mainly, in data center and analytics. Then he moved to a company called NRG Energy, where he learned about the energy market. And then with a combination of his skills in software development, AI, and analytics, and his understanding of the energy industry, he decided to leave and start his own company, Innowatts, that's doing analytics innovation to basically enhance the value chain of energy. So welcome to the stage. I will let him describe the company to you in his own words rather than me trying to describe exactly what they do. So thank you very much. Have a seat. So we're going to start with Dr. Agustín, and I will give you the mic to introduce your role and how you see innovation within a corporation like Iberdrola.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting Iberdrola to this exciting place. I mean, it's like wonderful to be here. So, as you said, I've been in the position for 12 years, and when I joined Iberdrola, we faced the challenge of how we should accomplish R&D in my company. So, what is Iberdrola? Iberdrola is a utility company. We have been around for more than 100 years, but last 15 years we have made an international expansion. So we have a presence in UK, US, Mexico, and Brazil, and we have a strong footprint on renewable energy. So the idea, so we are one of the largest utilities in the world and a leader-winning energy producer. And the truth is that we have in mind how to change the energy sector and how to be part of that change. So we strongly believe in the further electrification of the economy. According to the International Energy Agency, will be 70% more electricity demand in the world for 2040. And we think there are opportunities for storage, backup, smarter networks, more energy efficiency. And this is one of the things we are trying to do here in QSTP. So, but my point was how can we develop a sound R&D program in a company like us that we don't have iPhones, and we don't have a product that people can touch and differentiate, but our product is electricity. And electricity is a commodity, and it's very difficult to do R&D on this field. So having a commodity, we thought, okay, the difference is not in the product, it's in how you make the product. So we start thinking, okay, we have to think about how to make this product more efficient, how to decrease the operational maintenance cost, how to increase the life of the assets, how to create new business models, and so on. And for that, we thought that the best way to do that was not to have a very centralized R&D center, but to spread the R&D culture to all our business units and to have them involved in this R&D. And we were very successful, and we increased our R&D budget through that very much, and we increased the efficiency of our operations. But after some years doing this, we found out that we were missing something. Because, okay, we were being very efficient doing R&D to increase our operations, but there was something out in the world that we were missing somehow. So we decided to create something to look to the future things. So there were two options. We could build an R&D center for us with many people, but it was going to be very, very costly because the knowledge is so wide right now that you cannot have experts in everything. So we decided not to go for this way, but to create a startup ecosystem around us. So we set up a venture fund, a corporate venture fund, so we could invest in companies all around the world, not spending that much money, but investing so we can acquire how these new companies were shaping the new energy system that we wanted to be part of, and at the same time being able to scout all the technologies and all the new business model propositions that were around the world. So we create this startup ecosystem from young entrepreneurs to acceleration of this entrepreneurship to invest. And we have, at the first step, we have universities. At the second step, we have early identification of small companies. And the third step, we invest in different companies all around the globe. And through this ecosystem, we are able to hear what people is doing in different fields: data, biology, material science, new energies. For example, my company have made small projects in terms of wave energy or tidal energy. But I can tell you that we know everything about the technology of wave energy, not because we have invested in the projects, but because we have learned all the companies that are in this field in the world. We know all of them, we know what they do, we know what their cost projections are and everything through this tool. So we don't have to have the experts inside, but the only thing we need to have is a team of people that understand what the experts are doing. And through this, we are having access to all this technology and not spending that much money. So I don't want to go through everything. Another thing that we also do is to make a lot of pilots. So it's not about creating a big project, invest too much money, but we have the possibility to make pilots with these startups and with this entrepreneurship ecosystem. So through that, we are able to understand if things work or not, and if they work, incorporate them into our operations and doing so. And the other thing about pilots, it is that we think that we are in an energy system that is changing, but the people inside the company doesn't want this change. They want to be as they are. So one of the leverage I use for the people in my company, in my organization, to move forward and to understand what the kind of change that are coming, it is to get them in contact with the people that is promoting this change. So working with them, making the people of the startups through the pilots, working with the people in my business, makes them understand how is the pace of the change and how the change can impact us. If I make the people in my organization to be the leaders of the change, I'm not going to get the change, never ever. So this is the kind of things that we try to do. And in the end, it is everything about hardware, it's about digital enablers, and truly speaking, for my company, the most important thing is to understand how hardware plus digital enabler transform everything into new business models. And this is the important thing for us. So it's not that much about doing research in hardware. It's not that much doing research in software for my company, but it's how hardware and software create a new business model that is different from what we were doing before. And this is the true things that are happening in the energy world we are envisioning for 2030 and further. So just the figures of our fund, I wouldn't say we are spending that much money. It's a 10 years fund, so it's 50 million. So we have not spent that much money, but we have scouted more than 2,000 startups. We learn about that. We know, I would say we know almost everything about them. We have made more than 30 pilots in the last 2 years, and we have invested in 10 startups so far. So the idea it is to create all this sound R&D system with R&D being in the business for efficiency and entrepreneur ecosystem to drive and to lead the change for the future. And this is the way we try to do things. And one of the companies we have invested in is Innowatts.
Thank you very much. Siddhartha, I'm going to give you the floor to talk about Innowatts, the company you founded 4 years ago. And we'll be also interested to hear about your personal story in that context. How did you decide to start a company and why?
Sure. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Now you can all relax. I'm the only non-doctor here. So my name is Siddhartha Sachdeva. I am with energy technology startup called Innowatts. We are headquartered out of Houston, Texas, US. So as Dr. Hakim wants me to also share my personal story and how we came around to starting Innowatts. So let me just go a few years back because I'm not that old. I was working for an energy company for I think it was probably my 9th year or so, or 8th year. And one of the things, it was NRG, and we are an energy provider. NRG is one of the largest retail energy providers in North America. So one day I was sitting in office and I was like thinking, what if we let each and every employee in this building, and there were like around 4,500 employees, go home for a month? What would happen to the end consumers? And whichever way I thought about it, I could not get an answer that the customers will be, or energy consumers will be impacted. So let me take a step back. Not sure how many of you are familiar with the utility value chain. So basically there are 3 segments. You have generation, centralized, decentralized power generation. Then you have transmission distribution, which is shipping the electrons through wires. And then you have the retail piece, which is interacting with the consumers, building energy plans, fixing the prices, creating energy efficiency products, reaching out to the customers, hedging the load obligations, so on and so forth. Retail is where I was focused on. Utility value chain at a global level is around $2.5 trillion. Retail contributes almost $1 trillion to it. And the funny thing is, if you take the retail portion out, nothing is going to happen to end consumers. Utility is probably one of the only few industries, or in the whole business or landscape, that wants to teach consumers, make consumers learn instead of learning from consumers. At least that was what our observation was. So that was one area. And the second we thought was, there are so many smart meters being implemented across the globe. What are we learning from it? How are we extracting intelligence from the consumption data that's coming in and providing value to end consumers? So those were a couple of the things that led us to start Innowatts with a vision to create a smarter and leaner energy value chain. So next slide, please. So what does this mean, smarter and leaner energy value chain? If you, again, go back to the $1 trillion leakage, or the value that we believe can be harvested or monetized, we believe that that value can be harvested across these different functions within the retail energy value chain, starting from energy procurement, energy supply, to energy marketing or acquisition of consumers, energy products and services, grid planning and operations, as well as customer engagement or predictive engagement. The last point you see, the vision there is, we should reach out to the energy consumers before they feel the need to reach out to you as a utility. Can people, anyone here in the audience, raise their hand if they like talking to their utility? So exactly that's what my point is. So technology is there. You talk about machine learning, you talk about artificial intelligence. We believe utility segment is probably the most critical segment where it can be applied and implemented with far-reaching benefits to the society. And that's what drives us at Innowatts. So next slide. And why are we doing it, right? So we talked about what it is, but why are we doing it? So yes, there is money to be saved, to be shared, as well as to create value in this whole value system, value chain. But it's also, you guys answered the first point. Nobody likes to talk to their utility. So then why are utilities spending, if not trillions, high or hundreds of billions of dollars in trying to reach out to consumers? So it has to be relevant engagement, often less. There is information overload. I don't want to see how much energy I'm consuming. Just tell me when my air conditioner is about to break down, or I'm going to have a bill shock. So that's what one of the value proposition is. Second is to provide automated or actionable intelligence. And I touched upon it briefly in my last statement. I can now extract intelligence from your smart meter consumption data and tell you whether your AC needs repair or not. I can tell you how much of your energy is being consumed by your lighting. And if in a place like Qatar, I can send you an alert saying, hey, looks like your AC needs repair before it breaks down, that would be far more valuable than receiving an email from a utility saying, okay, looks like your Sunday was more than Monday, Tuesday you used less, things like that, because that's informational, that's not actionable. Then creating personalized products and services. My energy consumption patterns could be different than his or yours. And that's, we believe, one of the major issues with the whole utility industry, where it's one price. Granted, some people can argue it's socialized industry, but that's what leads to wastage. If I am consuming more when it costs me more to produce, then my unit price should be personalized to my consumption patterns. And we are building technology to enable that. So, and ultimately, it has to learn from itself. As your consumption patterns are changing, maybe because of wear and tear of your home or your business, or macro and microeconomic things are changing, the platform should learn. The utility of the future should learn from it. I need not know whether you are a mobile maverick or you are a Gen X. That has nothing to do with your energy consumption. And that's one of the basic flaws that we believe the utility industry has. They should learn from how I am consuming and adapt their products and services accordingly. So the utility of the future will be predictive and will be proactive. And there are many opportunities to monetize. So we are not just working with some of the existing utilities, but we are enabling new power generators or new customer aggregators to become energy service providers. So solar companies, which on an average address maybe 10% of a customer's demand, can now plug into our e-utility platform and become full service energy providers. Or some large consumer branded companies, or having a good brand, and for lack of better, or I cannot use those examples on a public stage, but let me use a Qatar example. So let's say Qatar Airways has a great engagement with all the flyers. Can they sell energy products? Sure. And those are some of the companies that we are enabling to sell energy plans and products to consumers who they have good engagement with. Oh, by the way, another section you see here is product and technology vendors. So we are working with some like air conditioning manufacturing companies, as well as home warranty and appliance warranty services, where now we can predict whether a customer's air conditioner needs repair or some appliances need repair by learning from the data. So that's actionable intelligence. We are taking a step further. And in fact, we demonstrated it at a conference in US 3 weeks back. So now, if you heard of Amazon's Alexa, which is a voice-enabled UI, it can tell you not just your AC needs repair, but hey, through your contact book, I have access to Joe the electrician. And I see that you don't have any parental or spousal activity next Saturday. Can I schedule a call, or can I bring your electrician to check your AC? So that kind of automation is what we are talking about, because the truth is nobody likes to get involved in those things, and we use ourselves as the litmus test. We are all energy consumers. So does it work for us? Great. Let's at least try it out in the market, and that's have been our mantra. This is about us. So 14.2 million meters now on our platform. Around 1.4 trillion load intervals our platform analyzes on a daily basis. And we are across 3 continents, 13 energy markets, and what you see are some of our clients. And you can see There are clients not just from the conventional utilities, but to new retail energy providers, as well as some of the brands that had nothing to do with electricity. So that's what we are doing at Innowatts, creating the next generation utility platform. Thank you.
Thank you, Siddhartha. Let me start with you, asking you a question. So Iberdrola invested in your company. They're a large utility company, organization. You live in Texas, in Houston. You work with universities. You leverage some of the research that's been done by the academias there, and then national research labs in Texas. They do the same thing. They work with the same universities. Why do you think they need you? Why do they need a private sector startup company in the middle of the value chain to leverage the work and the technology and research that's coming out of universities and research labs?
It's a great question, and this question is not any different than if we go and deploy or we are selling our platform to a utility, and they ask us, why can't we do this in-house? Why do we need you? So, I would probably say the same thing here. Sometimes what happens is, or I'll use my personal story. We wanted to do this when I was working at NRG. Not exactly this thing, but something on a similar lines. And at that time, our president said, why do you want to go out, take the risk, go without salary, blah, 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 stay here, and we can mitigate your risk. So you have one person who is aligned with your vision and provides you the support. But then you have to rely on rest of the organization. And when you rely on rest of the organization, you are competing with the main priorities they have. And in many of the organizations, the priorities is the main business, keeping the lights on. I don't know if you agree, but for almost a year, my challenge was to get things off the ground. Yes, I have my CEO's back. He is aligned with the vision, but I need data scientists. I need software engineers, and they're all working to support the current business. And they ask, okay, we are ready to support you. Can you provide a business case? At that time, it's a leap of faith. I don't have any precedents to say, okay, this will generate X millions of dollars of revenue in 3 years. And that's where it breaks down in conventional, at least from my experience in conventional organizations. So that would be sort of my response to your question.
And I want to ask you the same question, but I'm going to ask it differently. So you were given some money, a lot of money, and you were asked to do innovation. Where you decided to take that money and invest it in startup companies. What you could have done instead is build an in-house innovation team and offer grants to academic institutions and research centers and work closely with them to build the product that they offer. But instead, you chose to actually go and look for a startup and invest in them and decentralize the effort and all of that. That's more of a headache, isn't it?
Yes, it is, but well, I have two problems. First is the one that Sid has said, and it is about the opposition to the change that I may face in my organization if I ask them to do things in a different way. Because people in my organization want to do things in the same way as they have been doing it so far, but more efficient. They agree on that, but not in a different way. So this is the first thing. It's much more difficult to ask somebody to disrupt themselves. This is the first thing. Second thing, it is that I can do it with my team, but then this is one team. Instead, I've invested in Innowatts, but this is not the first company I've seen around e-utility. I've seen so many companies, and I have chosen the best one from my point of view. So it is not that just I've done the first one and I choose the first one, but I have the possibility to choose among the best in the world. And this is much more valuable for me than just doing it, just using one shot, but using all these. And the results are huge. For example, we have invested billions of dollars in smart meter deployment. In our platform, we have closely to 11 million smart meters after investing billions of dollars. This company is 6 years old, 8 years old, 4 years old, and they have 15 million smart meters in their platform, much more than me. So the point it is that first, to answer your question, it's much more difficult to fight the opposition to change inside the company, and second, instead of doing it myself, I can choose the best of the world through the scouting. And the third thing is that probably I'm using 10 times less money through this way. This is why I'm doing so. Last point, it is that we are very good at generating energy, delivering the energy to customers. We are not that good at creating products like this one, or like drones or whatever that will serve to this purpose. We need suppliers that develop this product for us. So if I try to do what the suppliers have to do, I'm not that good at this. I'd rather develop this supplier chain like him and to use the product they do in my operations, because I'm very good at generating and selling energy, but not at developing a hardware or software to do that.
And why can't these suppliers be universities? Why do you need a private sector entity?
Yeah, we need people that have the hunger to sell products. And universities, from my point of view, are very good developing knowledge and technology, but their main role is not to sell product and to refine the product so it's better and better every time. So we need people that are close to us, but they need to survive, not on the papers they produce, but on the products they sell. So through that, we can expect the quality of product and the development of the products, the product development we need for our operations. And I mean, this is not the role of university. University has to be a technology and knowledge generation, but I wouldn't say they are product or service generation. You need technology, you need suppliers in the middle to get that. Totally, I think so.
Siddhartha, you took investments from Iberdrola and you took investments from Shell Technology Venture Fund. Yes. Who else?
A private or a VC fund which is backed by Japanese government.
Okay. So what does Iberdrola give you other than the money?
I think more important than the money was actually, if I can share, it took us, you have this concept of dating in some societies before you tie the knot. So we actually dated for almost 15, 16 months.
You dated him?
His team.
Yeah, okay.
I had a lot of choice. I was not stuck with one person. So we dated, and part of it was aligning, learning about each other, understanding the vision. Iberdrola spent actually a lot of time in trying to understand our vision. I'm not a marketing guy, and trust me, our slides were pathetic, but they made sense out of it. And to us, that was probably the most important milestone, that one of the largest utilities in the world is aligned with the vision, and sort of whether the money comes or not, that was secondary at that point of time. But they invested so much time in understanding and saying, yes, we like the vision and we believe in it. So that was sort of the first value for us, which gave us a lot of confidence to move forward or expedite our development. Second, we bounced ideas off them, Agustin's team, They are, hey, we are being approached by an oil and gas firm out of Paris. What do you think? And is there a synergy? So things like that. And they help us also think through about how to grow, how to scale. So organically, I can go like this. But if I want to scale up like this, I need ideas. And it has to be a teamwork, a brainstorming session. In fact, Agustín team was in Houston last week meeting with us. And we spent 3 hours talking about how do we scale. If we want to truly create a business which is global and scalable, we need to get to, our goal is to get to 100 million meters by 2022. How do we, how do we go about it? So we had some suggestions. They brought some suggestions, and I think that is priceless.
So one of the things we talked about upstairs in the office is, Agustín, is the fact that Innowatts is an independent company. So you don't own them. They have their own business plan. They have their own investors. You're one of the many investors they have. And they're developing a product that today you find value in for your organizations, but can potentially enable your competition as well. And potentially their product could be a disruptive to your business. How do you deal with all of that and at the same time being a good investor on their board, enabling them to succeed as a business?
Yeah. Just getting back to your previous question, we always say that we are not money, we are smart money. Yeah. Because it's not just providing the financing, but also these kind of things that Siddhartha was saying. And getting back to your question, I think that the technology that is around us will come sooner or later, and sometimes at the same time. So it is not about having one technology or not, but it is about how fast you embrace this technology to be one of the first movers in this field, right? So to your question, it is, I don't really mind if they work with some other companies. I want my company to work with them fast enough so we have this competitive advantage. Because sooner or later, the others will come to that. So I want to be one of the first movers of that. So one of the things we have with our venture fund, compared to doing it ourselves, it is we get speed to do things. So for example, in the Innowatts example, we have been making predictions for the energy consumptions of our customers to procure the energy for tens of years. So we gave them the data, the past data, so they could make the prediction in just 1 week. And they did it close to us in just 1 week while we were doing that for years and years. So it was, for our team, for our people in the company, was like astonishing. And we thought this technology is available for almost any company in the world. So let's have it sooner than our competitors. And this is the kind of things we think. And sometimes this question is difficult to answer inside the company, but also I think it's important to have a vision of the things you want to do in your company and then follow that vision. And our vision, it is not put barrier to the technology, not to be exclusive, but to move faster than the others. This is what we think. And this is the way we do things with our corporate.
Do you feel, because of their strategic partnership with them, and they are the investor, that do you treat them differently as a utility customer than other utility customers? They're your first date, basically.
So
I didn't prepare you for these questions.
No, that's fine. And I'm just thinking of an instance or an example that can support the answer that have we treated them differently. And I can't think of, at least on the fly. I mean, we do, of course, have a special relationship with them, but right now all our customers are equal. That's about it. But they have, we respect them for their views, their help in our strategic sessions. So yes, from that standpoint, we view them differently than others. If an existing client comes and says, oh, why don't you think about selling this thing? Or why don't you think about doing wind generation forecasting? Versus if Iberdrola comes and says, like, in fact, one of Augustine's team members said last week, we should start incorporating blockchain. So coming from them who have, of course, that piece carries a lot of weight because as Augustine said earlier, they scout tons of companies day in and day out. So they are seeing much more around the world than some of our larger customers are even seeing. And so from that standpoint, yes, we value their opinion a little more than others. But as a customer, everyone is equal.
Okay. Let me ask...
diplomatic answer?
That's very, very, I think, you know, did you like his answer?
Yeah, the truth is that being an investor also gives you the opportunity to somehow co-design or to somehow ask them to meet your requirements a bit, because somehow you are the voice of the customers, but you have the possibility to shape the product to accommodate our needs. So somehow it's, for us, this is what we are looking for. We are not looking for discounts on the products or whatever, but we are looking for a product that is designed to better shape our needs. And this is good for me as a customer, and for him as the guy who is producing the service.
How many startups you've invested in so far?
Yeah, we have invested like 15, and there are only 10 alive.
Okay.
So one of the very important things, and this is for the audience, it is that our goal is not to make money out of the corporate. Okay, I don't want to lose money, and I try to do it in an efficient way. But anytime my chairman asks me how much money we have earned on this, I said, no, this is not a fund to produce money. This is a fund to produce knowledge, and at the same time, I'm not going to lose money. So these 50 million euros, I try to keep them safe, but I'm not going to make a ×2, ×3, ×4 exit, because I'm not a fund.
Yeah.
I'm a tool for innovation in my company. I want to generate knowledge and a service for my company. And this is a very important point, because if you have the two goals at the same time, making money and producing knowledge, it's difficult. It's not that easy.
Yeah. So let me ask one more question to you, ask you for your advice, and then we will open to the audience the Q&A discussion. So let me try to describe to you from the high level what the Qatar ecosystem looks like, and ask for your feedback on how we can best create economic value out of it, right? So we've got, in Qatar, we got a number of government agencies that are very interested in buying technologies. So they're trying to make sure that the country has the cutting edge infrastructure and the best technologies available, right? So we've got ministries that are investing in roads, you've got in smart cities and infrastructure and, you know, oil and gas facilities and all of that stuff. You also have a number of large, big corporates that have a regional, if not a global reach. So you've got Qatar Airways, you've got Ooredoo, you've got Karama, right? So, and you've got Al Jazeera with media. So the country has its hand with a number of different industries that are, for the most part, like you said, you're in the business of selling electricity. They're in the business of selling airline tickets. They're in the business of selling media production, all of these things. But they're all also interested in innovation, because they understand that their industries are being disrupted with innovation, and they're interested in figuring out a way not just to leverage innovation, but to create value out of innovation. And we also have a number of national research institutes and universities that are doing R&D. So we have a number of really good components that can enable us to be at least to create economic value out of leveraging and creating new technology. If you have all of these things, how would you mix them or what would you add to them?
Shall I answer the question?
Yes.
Yeah, as I was saying upstairs, I truly like what we call the pull policies in terms of R&D. So you can use push policies, like it is putting a lot of money in the R&D system and trying to push the value out of that money. Or you can make like pull policies that it is like trying to drive through the demand the needed research and new value propositions you have. So, for example, in Spain, we have what we call the innovative public purchase, and we in Iberdrola have the innovative private purchase. So we allocate part of our purchases to products that they don't exist already. So we said, we specify what we would like to, for example, in terms of operational maintenance with robots and so on, setting up standards that are not achievable with the current technology. So through that, what is the price for the people who get that? The price is a contract with Iberdrola. So this is a pull policy because you don't give money for somebody to research, but you give money to somebody that gives you a real product. And through that real product, you are really, really promoting the creation of this environment, as I was saying before, of these supply companies that you need. And these supply companies, where do they get the knowledge from? From my point of view, for sure from themselves, but from the research institutions. So instead of putting the money into the research institution directly, you have to put it already anyway. You buy things, create this SMEs and supplier environment, and this environment will try to acquire the knowledge from the universities and so on. So I like this scheme because I'm really interested in people around us that have a real product that solve problems that I have and that either are expensive so far, or they can be cheaper, or they can have enhanced features, like like the technology can provide today. So this is the kind of things I would do, and this is the kind of things I try to do in my company. Instead of just having, I have some direct agreement for sure with universities, but I really work with my suppliers to drive the innovation. So they do the innovation for me, in the end.
Very good. Siddhartha?
So I'll answer it from my vantage point, if you will. I see the value chain as sort of, again, having three segments. One is where you're doing base research, so like academia, universities. In fact, at our onset of our journey, we started working with Caltech, California Institute of Technology, on some machine learning models. Because for us at that time, it was not easy to hire data scientists, but it was fairly easy to work with existing departments which had focused or have had focused on those things. So that's one layer which works on base technologies. And then you need a layer called startups like us to productize it, i.e. commercialize it. So which matches the business value or starts with a business value. So what do I need to do? You know, as a startup, I need to create a business value. I won't say I need to create a machine learning algorithm. For heaven's sake, for what? Right? So you start with a business value, you have technology, bring it on board, customize it, change it, adapt it, and then make sure that it's generating that business value, and then sort of commercialize it across the third value chain, which is your buyers. Could be your existing entities whose operations you're trying to improve or disrupt, or go to end consumers. So in fact, most of the successful startups, if you would see, started like that. Any good value that you want to create or disruption you want to create at least in our experience, has to start from outside. And which I think, based on what we were talking upstairs, is that the middle layer here is missing. Of course, you need pull, as Agustín was saying, but you also need some sort of a push, because unless you have the basic technologies or skills in place, you won't be able to meet that pull demand either, right? So whatever Qatar Airways wants to pull, I mean, there is nobody here to service them, right? So you need both, and they have to go hand in hand.
Very good. Thank you very much. We'll take a few questions from the audience. I cannot see. Yeah.
Firstly, thank you for the presentation. It was really nice. My name is Fahad Qureshi, and I work at Qatar University. And basically, we work on natural gas. We have been doing research on natural gas hydrates for the last 4 years. And now we are planning to make first move for a scale up, as you were talking about scale up. So I would like to take your advice. How should we attract the first investor to come to us and take interest in our research? Because we have publications, we also are planning to have some patents on it. But how do we attract the first investor to come and invest in the technology or the research work that we have been trying to develop for the last 4 years? Thank you.
Can he raise money while he's still at the university, you think?
Sorry?
Can he raise money while he's still at the university working on the research project?
I think you can. I mean, I've seen undergrad students raising money. If you, again, to me, and I'll answer it from my standpoint, there are arguments for and against it, but I think you need to have some business value if you want to raise money. Otherwise, you should be raising grants if it is more academic oriented. So what's the business value, your research or the work that you're doing will create, how it will help oil and gas companies or natural gas companies? Is it upstream, downstream? So let's say it's downstream. Go after companies or funds that work in the downstream area. I would ideally say the first step should be to get a pilot project. Try and commercialize what you're doing in the real world. If you're still, especially in university, see if university can support some of your economic needs, but try and deploy it in real world so everyone can see the benefit, or most importantly, you and your team can see the benefit.
Yeah, well, I do some investments. I have had many opportunities from the university, but the first thing I always ask is there any company incorporated so far? Is there people that are risking really, that they believe first in the technology to risk somehow their career, that believe in the project themselves first before I believe in this project? So I don't mind if you have a close relationship with the university because the knowledge comes from there, you can have, but I need to see a core of people that believe in the idea and that fight for survive out of this idea. You know what I mean? I'm from that, then what she was saying, okay, if you can get a pilot project, you can start showing that you add value and so on, then I will invest. I'm going to invest in a research program. You know, I'm going to invest in an idea that have a business case out of that needs some money to research. But I'm not going to invest in a research program. And I need people that are risking themselves before I risk my money. And if everything goes well, then it will grow. And if not, like in the US, these people can create another company, as you did. But the truth is that we are always looking for people that are risking themselves and believe in their idea.
Siddhartha, you said when you started the company, you didn't take a salary for 2 years?
2.5 years.
How much of that was a factor? You said you looked at the different companies like his. How much of that influenced your decision on not just the fact that he didn't take money, that the risk profile of the company and the team he put in place that allow you to actually feel comfortable making a bet on them?
Well, I think that there are some factors when you are going to invest in a company. As I said, I think we really have to trust the management team. So this is, I would say, half of it. We have seen companies that have nice technology, but the management team is not, I mean, we don't feel comfortable with them, then you shouldn't invest, because if you do, you're going to have problems all the time. And we're not going to get this co-design that we were talking before. So management team is one thing, nice technology is another thing, and appealing value proposition is another thing. So when we invest in Innowatts, we have the management team we trust because we get to know them and we like them. They have nice technology because they created this data platform and these algorithms to get that. And they have an appealing idea of creating this e-utility that is able to apply these new things like this intelligence and this data and so on for the customers. And they have already 10 million meters when we invested. So they have the three things we were looking for. And that's why we make the pilot with them to test the technology. It was like a due diligence, and after that we invested. So it was these three things somehow what we were looking for.
Okay. Thanks.
Yes, thank you for this informative information about energy. And I have a small startup company that we deal with telephone batteries, power banks. And I'm just wondering, what is your future forecast on the cars, you know, like the Tesla, and what are you doing with electricity on the term of other platforms?
Yeah, I will take this.
You love them, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, we are an electric company. We strongly believe in the electrification of the economy, but also in the electrification of the transportation. And in cities like Madrid and some others where air quality is a problem, electrification of the transportation is really a solution. So, lithium-ion batteries have developed so much that the cost of the electric car is decreasing dramatically. So currently, like 40% of the cost of an electric car is the battery, and you have around 300 kilometers of autonomy. But our guess it is that if today a battery pack is around $220 per kilowatt hour, it will decrease to 80 in 15 years. So around 2022 somehow, having an electric car along the total cost of ownership of an electric car will be cheaper than internal combustion engine. From that point, we strongly believe that sales of electric cars will dramatically increase. This is our expectation. For example, we believe that for 2030, in 12 years' time, there will be 100 million cars, electric cars, in the world. So it's not much because you have in the world 1.2 billion, but it's increasing a lot. We have a nice graph from Norway. They have grants for electric cars, but when the economics of the electric cars appear, the share of sales of electric cars rise in 3 years from 3%, 5% to 30% in 3-4 years. Because electric cars, they are somehow nice to drive. You have the advantage of being able to charge them at home, so you don't have to go to the petrol station many times. And at the same time, for example, for cities like Madrid and so on, you will be able to get into the city because probably you know that some of the internal combustion engines are forbidden to get into the cities at some points because of pollution, air pollution. For 2040, UK and France have banned internal combustion engines. This means that in 2030, people will stop buying internal combustion engines cars because of all of this. So we think there is a huge and a brilliant future for that.
Hello. Well, my name is Faridi, and I'm representing a company called Denova Glowsoft Limited. In fact, my question is that what you feel Qatar as a market for your industry, I mean to say for your product, since you are complementing a utility industry, and of course Qatar is always friendly for the utility industry. The second question is this, that what you feel if we as a local company can join together for the Qatar market. Since we are into IT industry and we work for the utility industry, probably we both can complement in Qatar as a local market.
We were talking earlier, Siddhartha, about maybe Qatar become a regional hub for you to penetrate the MENA region. Maybe you can talk about that also and address that.
Sure. Let me preface my answer by saying this is my first visit to the Middle East, and I just started learning about Qatar from last week when I came to know that I had to be here. So we are, one of the things we are trying to understand is how advanced the smart grid technologies are here in Qatar. The local utility, what do they have in place? We in fact have had a couple of sessions with Iberdrola's Smart Energy or Technology Center here at QSTP. So we are trying to learn. I don't know as to what the opportunities are, but at least the intent is to use this trip as an opportunity to understand the market opportunities, not just in Qatar, but also around Qatar, Middle East. One thing we know is that this is one of the most vibrant economies in this area and open to new technology and innovative companies. So can we make this as our staging ground or a hub to reach out to the utilities across Middle East and North Africa? But in terms of partners, I think we would need partners, whether it's in terms of companies like yours or some product vendors or employees here. That's, I think, a little early for me to answer without really knowing where we are headed and where we can get most value out of.
Agustín, maybe you can talk a little bit about the Iberdrola Innovation Center in QSTP. I'm assuming you want this to be just for your entire ecosystem. So you're bringing us one of your startup, but you also have 10 others you've invested in and in the future. So perhaps you can talk about the mission of the Innovation Center here.
Yeah, the truth is that we strongly believe there are huge opportunities in the energy sector here in Qatar. So as Sid was saying, there are three main business in this: is generation, distribution, and retail. And in the three, I think we can find opportunities. And we want to somehow shape those opportunities with our center here in the QSTP. So first, we strongly believe that PV cost has decreased dramatically, and it's going to decrease even more. So I think that is something that sooner or later you will be having here in Qatar, because the cost of producing electricity with solar has decreased so much. And you have so much sun, although you have some dust. So the truth is that the combination of gas plus PV is a strong combination to have a very good price for electricity. So this is the first part, and one of the things we are doing here is trying to understand how the PV generation helps to shape the generation profile that you may have here. One thing. The second thing is that this profile, as is not that clear, we need to transport and distribute to the customer. So having a smarter network grid is very important, so we can somehow understand better the flows of electricity coming from this generation and taking into account the consumers. And we are developing here technology to better understand this. And from here, we are also helping some other companies in the area, in the Middle East area, to shape their smart grid networks in the future. And third, there is a huge opportunity you have here in Qatar to increase the efficiency in the energy consumption. So it is not only about consuming less energy, but consuming it in a wisely manner. So now that you have the information of all the meters, because you have smart meters in place, thanks to the smart grid that is being deployed, then you can build platforms to give to different customers the better way to consume this energy. And through that, you can save a lot of energy. Our expectation is that easily with the technology that is already available, in Qatar could be saved 30% of the energy consumption. And this is a huge amount of money, and this is huge value creation. And we think that there is opportunity not only for the utility, for Karama, but also for, as I said before, those suppliers that can help Karama to build these solutions. And we want to be one of these suppliers thanks to the technology we have here.
Good, thank you. I think I see 2 more questions up here, up front. Have a microphone.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Iman bint Khalid. I'm from Weill Cornell Medicine. So I'm coming from a medical background, and if I'm looking for investor, let's say Qatar Airways. So I would like to know what's your advice for me approaching a company not from my field, and for the other side, the investor, to invest in different field.
So let me also add to that. So this is Qatar Airways. Qatar Airways has not established yet a venture fund inside Qatar Airways. So you're trying to approach Qatar Airways as an organization to make investment. And she's a medical doctor in a university. And we're trying to bridge that gap between Qatar Airways' opportunity to make investments and talent that we have in universities to actually create businesses.
So, first of all, you have to think about the needs of your client. Maybe your client, or this Qatar Airways, doesn't know that he has a need. But always think what kind of need you are going to cover for him. Because from my point of view,